Morning. I'm Reverend Karen Lewis, and I am one of the senior ministers here at the New Vision Center, and it is my joy to welcome each and every one of you. Those of you who are here for the very first time or came back after a long absence, those of you who are here for the second, third, or fourth time, and those who are here every Sunday. We love and appreciate each and every one of you, so thank you for being here, and welcome home. We are in a series. We are in a series of 3 weeks, and the series is called The Spiritual Gifts of Waiting. Karen Blakely did such a beautiful job bringing this tradition of Advent closer to us. It's a tradition I grew up with in Germany. I know if you grew up in either the Catholic or the Protestant faith, you have experienced Advent and this time that is so filled with waiting for the big event, right? When I was a little kiddo, oh man, I could hardly wait for the 24th of December and for all the wonderful gifts that would show up. Anybody else remembers that? Yeah? Yeah, still doing it. Oh, okay, good. Yeah. We're still waiting for it. So this series was inspired by the book by that title, The 7 Spiritual Gifts of Waiting by Holly Whitcomb. And it has been such a wonderful exploration for me and for many of you, because I received some emails and texts mirroring back how different it is when we welcome waiting, when we look for the gifts within it instead of being annoyed by it. Annoyance is not a spiritual practice, I found out. No. So 2 weeks ago, we started this series and we talked about patience and loss of control. The first gift of waiting is patience. And it is the capacity to see, to hear, to touch, to feel and smell as fully as possible whatever is happening right in this moment. The patience, experiencing and practicing patience, opens us up to see better, to hear more, to understand what is happening on the inside as well as all around us. And then the second gift, the loss of control, we looked at that it really teaches us resilience, making peace with what is right in front of us. And that surrendering into it allows us to have a new perspective about it. And then today we are going to look at 3 gifts, the next 3 gifts, which are living in the presence, compassion, and gratitude. And we can cover 3 gifts today because those are the very principles of this teaching. They're the very principles. Science of Mind has 8 principles, and we're covering 3 of them today. So I feel like almost like half a class for foundations is taken care of right here. You can sign up at the concierge table afterwards. And then next week, we're going to wrap up this series, and we're looking at the gift of humility and trusting in the divine, trusting in God. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. I think I will call that talk Still Waiting. I think that makes sense. But today we are going to have a look at living in the present. I was introduced to the poet Lucy Greeley. She wrote an autobiography, and she named it Autobiography of a Faith, of a Face. Lucy had cancer as a child. And she had cancer of the jaw, which made her endure 2.5 years of chemotherapy and numerous operations. So her childhood was filled with waiting in a hospital. She found out that it cuts down on this waiting time if she wandered all the way down the hallway around the corner to the bathrooms that were all the way at the other end. And in her autobiography, she talks about that she found in the first stall in that bathroom that she would go to every time she was in the hospital, she found somebody had scratched graffiti on the inside of the door, and it said, "God is near." And in the second stall, the same kind of squiggly handwriting said, "Be here now." And she said the first time she read that, she felt strongly, I do not want to be here now. I don't want any of this. And I want to invite us to take a moment, perhaps let rise up within you something that is a situation where you feel like, I do not want to be here now. I do not want to be sitting across this person, who might be a doctor, or somebody I'm having a conflict with, or somebody who's delivering bad news. Or a situation in our lives where we feel like we want a different experience and we sure don't want to be here now. And what might that teach us if we, instead of wanting to be someplace else, welcome it? Because it is. Lucy says it this way: be here now. I didn't want to be here now. My wanting was inconsequential. I was here now whether I liked it or not. Yeah. So where then is the gift in that? Where might be the gift in allowing us to fully feel this now moment when we rather not be there? So often we hear in this teaching, we can't push anything away. We have to make our way through it. Only if we accept what is right in front of us can we have the ability to move through it, through the other side of the storm. And that holds true in waiting as well. If we are faced with a crisis, a challenging time, where we are experiencing this challenging time of waiting, might it serve us to focus on accepting? Might it serve us to be fully here now? And one of the ways that I know how to do that is to take a breath. And so let's do that all together. Let's just right where we are, whatever comes to your mind that might be challenging at this time, take a breath, a deep one. And on the exhale, allow yourself to let go of the struggle against it. Be here now. Tried it out a couple of times this week, and it worked. This brings us to this idea that compassion is a gift in waiting. That when we experience that time of waiting, that we can connect even deeper with compassion. As I prepared for this talk, Tracy Stahl came to mind. Now, many of you remember this wonderful practitioner and teacher that has served the New Vision Center for many, many years. She was on a cancer journey, and about 6 years ago, she taught a class. I want to say it was on a Monday evening. I'm looking at Jolene, and she's nodding because she was teaching the class with Jolene, and then that night it became clear that she had to go to the hospital and that it would be the last time that she would go to the hospital. And over the next 5 days, a group of us practitioners and students of hers would congregate right here at Mayo Clinic, out in the waiting area, and we would just come together, tell stories that we experienced with Tracy, shared funny things that happened. And every once in a while, one of us would go in to be with her and then would come back out. But that, when I think about compassion, of sharing the burden, that is what comes to mind. Of us being together. At one time, I remember the nurse came out and asked if we could please include all the rest of the patients in our prayers, because there were some that were all alone. And of course we did. Of course we did. I think back to that time where compassion opened my heart and opened the hearts of all of the people that were there. And we were able to make it through that time with more grace, with a little bit more ease, being there for one another and for the family. Eddie Hillesum says, ultimately, we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves, more and more peace, and to reflect it towards others. What if that is really our assignment here now? To create more peace within ourselves. And from that place, being willing and able to share that space with another through compassion, through being there for them. And knowing that they will be there for us. I love that song that Rick brought to us, looking for the good in everything. It was a very sad situation, as it always is when someone makes their transition, leaves here to go to the next plane. And yet we were able to find goodness and light and peace and love right there. Compassion. If you grew up with Bible stories in your faith tradition, you might have heard the one of Mary and her cousin. Ooh, I should know that. Oh, thank you. Oh, that was a beautiful moment. I'm like, I know the name. It's written right there. It's Elizabeth. Thank you. Yes. So Mary and Elizabeth, two women finding themselves unexpectedly expecting a child, one very young and one much older. And they called on each other. And they supported one another through that time. Because what we find is that people who have gone through what we are going through have an incredible ability to be with us in those moments, right? Yeah. They understood each other's fears and anxieties. They understood the precarious situation they really were in. And they supported one another. This time of year, this beautiful Advent, this focus on joy asks us, where am I called to support one another, to support another? Where am I called to lay down whatever troubles me in this time and be present? And we can tell we need to slow down. Take a pause, as Reverend Leslie so beautifully said last week, right? Take a breath. Let it be okay. That not every moment has to be filled. That when we allow the pause, we naturally create that bigger space of peace in our hearts. The beautiful quality of compassion is the gift of waiting, of the time when things are not quite happening. And when we come together, when we are willing to be even in that most vulnerable time with others and let others in, we can achieve so much more. Hafiz, the beautiful Sufi poet, says it this way: a hunting party sometimes has a greater chance of flashing love and God out into the open than a warrior all alone. Where might you be called to create your own hunting party? Perhaps someone is walking through your mind during this time of year. Perhaps somebody is calling for you to be with them, to create that experience of closeness, of compassion, of loving kindness. I believe that we are called to lay down whatever gets in the way to get there. And often that is not very busy. Often that is to stop, to just stop. Listen. And to breathe. And just like that, it brings us to the final gift of waiting for today, gratitude. Such a beautiful reading from Mark Napo, inviting us to be vulnerable enough to be grateful. Because when we really allow ourselves to feel gratitude within, what happens? We open our hearts, right? We remove any shields that we might have to protecting ourselves, and we just say, thank you. Thank you, life. Thank you for this. I believe that it makes us be in much closer contact with our own life, with our experience here now. We are allowing whatever is coming into our hearts. Gratitude is what opens the doorway. Now, gratitude is a little bit like a shy animal, in that to allow gratitude to bubble up from deep within, we can't be loud. It is not the big loudness that opens the space for gratitude to enter every cell of our being. Just imagine if you are sitting on the edge of the woods and you would like to have close contact with one of the animals. You have to be very quiet and still. Very quiet and still. And they come. And I believe that is how gratitude works as well. The gift of waiting, of these times when they are not filled with whatever it is we are waiting for, is that it's naturally quiet. We often bump up against our feeling of things should move faster. We should be there now. When all that is asked for, that we are present with an open heart, with an acceptance. Timothy Miller says it this way: the harder you try to be grateful, the more elusive the experience becomes. It must come to you on its own schedule and its own terms. You practice gratitude by carefully building a home in your heart to accommodate it. That is our work. To build a space in our heart to accommodate gratitude, peace, grace, this now moment. This one right here. The more we allow ourselves to be still, to be with what is, the more gratitude makes itself known in our lives. And we will notice all of the things to be grateful for that we might otherwise miss. The little things, the kindness of a stranger, the time someone took to wrap a gift, a beautiful flower. Anybody who has an amaryllis at home or paper white knows what that means, right? We wait for the moment. And during that time, we notice and appreciate the little things in life. That is what the gift of waiting brings to us. When we are willing to shift our focus from this thing that I want to have happen, or the thing I fear that will happen. And when I bring my focus a lot closer to where I am and what is in front of me and who is in front of me and what is asked of me, to open my heart to be present here, now, and to trust that everything else will sort itself out. In our busy, busy world, there are not a lot of places where we can allow ourselves to pause. The New Vision Center is one of those. You are always, always welcome here to come to be in this energy throughout the week. Together, we can create an Advent time, a holiday season that is filled with gratitude, with love, with compassion, with being in the now moment. I am so grateful we are on this journey together. And so it is. And so staying in this experience of stillness, I invite all of the practitioners of this teaching, the ministers, to just rise and stand with me, holding this consciousness of availability, of spaciousness, where we realize that there truly is only one life, only one experience happening right here, and that is the divine life working itself out in each and every one of us. That is true for everybody in the sound of my voice, for all people everywhere. And as we consciously step into this experience, we feel its blessing. We know that love, light, and peace, the harmony, beauty, and power of the divine is right at the very center of our own being. And as that is the truth of ourself, it is the truth of everyone, every living being, every sentient being everywhere. And so we open our hearts and know the highest and best for one another. For whatever journey we are on, we send love and light, knowing that it is for the highest unfoldment of the soul, even if we don't understand it. And we take an extra moment and just bless those people who put prayer requests into our prayer ministry, all the beloveds that are part of the New Vision Center who have ever been here and who will come in the future, knowing without a shadow of a doubt that our blessing uplifts and comforts. How grateful I am to know this truth, to affirm it, to live it. So placing this word into universal law, we simply let it be. We call it good. And so it is.